Hi, we are with Dr. Rian Nugroho today. Yeah, he's lecturer in University of Indonesia and also a former governance specialist in UNDP and also former specialist staff of Ministry of State-Owned Enterprise in Indonesia in year of 98 to 99. Yeah. Hi, Pak Rian.
Morning.
So we're talking about the GRC today, where people think about GRCs everywhere. What do you think of GRC actually, Pak Rian?
First of all, I like the word GRC. In 1998, we introduced good corporate governance in the state-owned enterprises. And up to now, it is not a syllable word, not syllable concept. So as we have see today's governance, good governance, GCG, is just a partial part of corporate management. So because by GCG is not quite nice to the ear, when it comes with GRCs, governance, risk, compliance, we have hints. It's a buzzword. Why? Indeed, governance we need it. Number two, management. It's about risk, governance, risk, and compliance. Risk. Right now, we don't see that risk is here. We just think risk while it comes to us. We have to learn risk is something that will happen. We have now to have risk management, what we call risk management. But we have to aware risk is not just come once in a year or once in 2 years. Now risk come every minute because by the digital life, innovation come in a minute, even in a second. So risk is become a new word today, and everybody now buying about risk issues. Third, compliance. In it, compliance, we are just human beings. We are God created, and we have to comply with the universe rules. So the issue, if we are people have a culture of compliance, there is smaller and smaller problem even in the government and the corporates in the life. For example, Japan, one of an example of society in the world that have a very high compliance to regulation. So without control, without oversight, even without regulation, they do better. So governance, risk, compliance, I think it has to be a mainstream for managing corporates and even government and even the NGOs. Mm-hmm. It is new words that I'm very glad to become part of it, and we have to mainstream it because it's a very not just sellable but marketable words. Mm-hmm. The issue is how we encourage people to have it, because we have to admit that problem of us, we see sometimes governance, and also now we see that risk and compliance is about technical matters. It is not just that. Governance, risk, and compliance is beyond technical. It is about, in my words, it's about encouragement. So let's say, if I control you by those words, GRCs, you don't like me because everybody don't like to be controlled. But I would like to encourage you to do a better thing by having what, for example, you govern yourself better. You know what the risk, so you have, you prepare before the risk comes. What Soros mentioned about staying above the curve, and how to comply without getting harder. Easy to do. So, in now terms, the GRC is about how we encourage people, government, corporation, NGOs to do it easily and happily, because this is not prisons. If we are using, with the technical words, so we are just the guard in the prisons. You should do this and that, and it's hard to do, because our side. We just like killing people. The loss of happiness in doing things. Look, everybody will doing everything if they're happy. So this is also the issue of leaders. So every leaders in these corporations, in this government, in these NGOs has to encourage that governance, risk, and compliance has to be encourage people to do something for their goods. And then for organization goods, because why, everybody has interest. I have interest. If there, as if those requests come to me to belong my interest, and I buy it, the buy-in is the issue. So it is beyond. So therefore, the GRC has to go beyond, not just technical, but how we think beyond, because every country needs it.
Yeah, okay. So if you think this is a very, very important, then in this country we can say, who needs more? It's the real sectors or the public sectors? Probably you can, I don't know, one side is more important than the other, requires this GRC, or what's your perspective, Pak?
Number one, it is not the corporation that need GRC first, but government sectors, public sectors. Because why? Okay, we call it governance is when the corporation has to follow, to comply with the government policy. But what if government could not develop a good policy? Or they just change the policy every 6 months or every 2 weeks? It's getting crazy. People could not work. So government has to do what we call the GRC at their level. And the product of GRC, first thing first, is the government policy. Okay. So government has to know and admit, not just acknowledge, that their policy has a governance. They admit the risks, and it's to comply to what? To comply their clients. What are the clients? Private sectors, society, and other stakeholders. And in my terms, I follow Henry Mintzberg. Society is not the customers of government, but the owner of the government. So first thing first, government has to implement the GRCs. How to do it? The GRC team has to do what we call collaborations, cooperation, co-working, co-learning, because it's an open organization, a digital life, everything has to be cooperation, etc. So first of all, how we mainstream it and we doing with practitioners in public administrations, number one. Number two, however, cooperation, even number two, is still important, because why? Economic growth and economic prosperity of every nation is not belong or the accountability of the government, because why? It has to create from profit, and profit come from the product. Product come from innovation, and innovation come from entrepreneurship. It should be no entrepreneurs in the government. Entrepreneurs has to come from the private sector, business sectors. So GRC has to be implemented pure in the private or business sectors. How to do it? Okay, let's say we enlarge from perspective about how we control, how we comply, how about this, but how we encourage first. The leader, the captain of industries has to know, to acknowledge, admit how they have to put governance, not at their rules, regulation of the company, strategy, no, but at the head, and the cultures. And also management about race. Race has to be embedded in the cultures. Look, I'm teaching in Japan, I don't have, in Japan, people don't have strategy. Because the strategy embedded in their mind, the cultures, and also compliance. If I get to use to comply with the government or policies, rules, I don't even have to be oversighted. I don't have to be controlled, so everything becomes cheap. For example, if you travel to the airport, there is no need for police officer to oversight the luggage. Everybody takes their own luggage. It's what we call trust-based economics, and it comes from compliance. So at first, the leaders has to put it in their mind and the culture, and then he or she must transform to everybody in the company, in the corporation. And for sure, previously it done by the board of commissioners. In my opinion, no, it is the task of the CEO, and the board of commissioners. It just help, assist, support, because the board of directors is doing daily and oversight. No, it has become part of the executive. Governance, race, and compliance is a core task of executives because we are now entering the digital industry, the 4.0, which is, the limit, the barrier of ethics, of compliance, is very, 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 very thick, and sometimes just adult. That is why you cannot control anymore. For example, how can you control a digital company just like Gojek, even Alibaba? Because they're not a company. It's a large of conglomerations, and that's just connected. And this is a challenge for us. And the third, NGOs, society sectors, the third sectors. Because the third sector now is the third largest sector in every country. Now the third sector support the private and also the company. They also need it, but it is the third partners. Yes.
Okay, so it's very interesting, Pak Rian, that you've mentioned that behavior of GRCs. That's what I've heard. Yeah, it become more important rather than more the documentaries and the process itself. So what's the greatest challenge actually if you want to have a good GRCs for the public and also for the real sectors? Yeah, what's the great challenge that?
First, you got to have a spirit, what we call great spirit. Great spirit is we take the GRC, it is about spirit. Because once becomes spirit, I think you get problem to make a judgment who is the best, because everybody is the best. And the training of GRC, the next, is not technical trainings, but the spiritual training, not religions. I mean about training how leaders should think, how leaders should have a culture. And the top layers of the corporations, government, admit it as the new imperatives, not for just walkings, but excellencing the performance. So first, you got to have the spirit. It's not very much conceptual. Spirit is about commitment. How we commit to do this, how we commit to mainstream this. For example, I'm very much impressed by today's event. This is the first time I was invited, and I knew that I feel important. By feeling others important, I buy in, I jump in, and I become your troops. And nobody will be left behind. So the spirit, number two, is nobody left behind. The others is about techniques. Okay. And techniques you can't do it because you have methodology. Indeed, there is it should be a technical training, but the technical training should be engaged with a philosophical, spiritual things. Because if you engage all the things easy to do, and everybody love to do easy to do.
Okay, that's very great, Pak. So I think it's going to be very interesting, but. Before we close these conversations, do you have any certain message for our viewers?
Yes. Number one, we have to see GRC not as obligation, but as yours. It is the way we can survive, not just survive and win, by embedded in our after habit and the culture. Not just personal culture, it's a group culture, institutional culture. Because by having that, we have a very cheaper, not just cheap, maybe the cheapest business process. Because we should need any control anymore. Because we are trusted people. Trusted not just in behavior, but how we doing our jobs and our accountability. And control is just about matter in the world. That's all. Because everybody, control itself. It becomes a culture. Don't worry. Number two, encourage yourself. Please, captain of the industry, encourage yourself that this is need as an encouragement issue. It's not control issue. Left out control. It's encouragement. But it can be better every day, but with a very easier way, and it's not a burden for everybody. Now, by GRC, it's a method how we unleash all the burden that we have today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Dr. Rian Nugroho. Yeah, so thank you, viewers. This is very interesting conversations, and we thank you very much, Pak Doctor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Pak.